light means. All right, Tom, it's yours.
Okay, Tom McIntyre. I'm retired. I spent a lot of years in education and in social services. And just really after I retired, I spent a year into anything and then slowly got back into things. And this was one of the really attractive ones, the Community Coalition. So I've been involved since day one with that. And I just, my wife and I she just got her vaccination, but I had mine about a month or two ago. But it's just a freeing thing, you know. You don't have to. I still wear the mask and I still do all the stuff, but you just feel safer being out there. And so, if you're, I encourage you, if you haven't, everyone's eligible now, so get in the queue. And yesterday was my wife's birthday, and it felt normal. We were able to do normal things, so that was a nice change from last year. Anyway, welcome everyone, and glad you can be here with us. I'm still wearing my Gonzaga shirt from the disappointment of a week ago.
Oh, Tom, do you mind if I ask everybody to introduce themselves?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I can't see who's up there, so yeah.
I'll go ahead and call on you one at a time. Normally we do more in-depth introductions, but today's going to be action-packed, so to speak. So I'm just going to read off of my Brady Bunch squares here. Chris Jury.
Hello. I am Chris Jury. Sorry, my screen disappeared on me. Chris Jury, prevention manager for Northwest ESD, which means I have a whole bunch of student assistance professionals scattered across 5 counties to keep track of. And I guess I've been working in Monroe since 2006 in coalition work. So it's just very gratifying to see it continue and expand, and great stuff.
Thank you.
There we go.
Amber Mehta.
I'm Amber Mehta. I am the truancy specialist for Monroe School District.
Thank you. Norma.
Norma Mouton. I'm the administrative director for Hope Unlimited, and I work with presentations to the community and others.
Well, welcome, Norma. We're so glad to have you.
I also put some information in the chat box. If you can point people to that, I would appreciate it.
Chris Gray.
Hi, I'm Chris Gray. I am a retired educator, 30 years like Washington School District. But I'm currently a member of the board for Housing Hope and the immediate past president.
Welcome, Chris. Heather Bennett, nice to see you.
Hi, can you hear me?
We gotcha.
Okay, I am currently working at the Dispute Resolution Center for the Volunteers of America as their bilingual program support specialist. And I have been working with the Spanish speaking community since 2003 in various social service positions. So I'm really grateful to be here, and I hope I learn a lot.
Welcome, welcome. Pastor Michael.
I'm a pastor, a coordinator for Monroe Pastors Fellowship, and part of a few other groups and leadership teams in various areas of concern for the city of Monroe, and pastor of Christ Church Monroe.
Welcome, Pastor Michael. Rachel, who are you?
Well, I am Rachel Adams, and I am the project management consultant for the city of Monroe, working to implement the homeless policy advisory recommendations and also supporting the Community Human Service Advisory Board.
Welcome. Linda. Hi.
You're talking to Linda Buring, yes?
Yes, I am. So sorry. Yes.
No problem. My background's retired federal law enforcement. I'm currently the training director with Norma for Hope Unlimited, the anti-human trafficking initiative. And our focus is our focus is outreach and education for youth.
Excellent, excellent. Amy Black, nice to see you.
Hi, I'm Amy Black. I'm a substance use counselor with CMAR here in Monroe. I've worked in Snohomish County about 8 years, but just came to Monroe in December.
Welcome, welcome. Kathy Bernhardt.
I'm Kathy Bernhardt. I'm the McKinney-Vento and Foster Care Liaison for Monroe School District.
Michelle Simeone is our counselor at Frank Wagner Elementary. She had to step out for a few minutes to serve a student. Lisa Twoe.
Hi, I'm Lisa Tui. I'm just a support specialist with Volunteers of America. I've been with VOA for about 5 years. I was working as a family support specialist for ECAP. Now I'm working with Lindsay and her crew with the community resource centers.
Welcome, welcome. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen McCauley. I work at CMAR Behavioral Health in Monroe, and I am the case manager here.
Well, welcome, welcome. So great to have the CMAR representation. Lorena Lee.
Hi there, I'm Lorena Lee, and I'm the student support advocate at Frank Wagner Elementary.
Welcome, Lorena. Eliana.
Hello, I'm Eliana Hafner. I'm a program manager at CMAR Behavioral Health here in Monroe. I'm sorry I'm not being very consistent with this meeting, but really, I'm really trying to remember, to be part of the meeting from now on.
Well, we're so grateful for you, Eliana, and we know where your heart is. Really, like you don't have to apologize at all. Just so glad you're here. And Julia.
Hello, my name is Julia Lugo, and I am the clinical SUD supervisor for Monroe, for CMAR here in Monroe as well. I was, Virgil and I and Eliana used to go to these often, but with COVID and then even before that, stuff just happened. But like Eliana said, I'm glad to be back in it. So thank you for the invite.
Well, excellent. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in. Again, today's not a standard business meeting. And the lens that I hope you'll participate with today is from a lens of you. Like you're here because you help. And so if you're here today, just want to make sure you're in touch with how to help yourself. This is a survey more than anything in depth. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I may pick on a couple of people later since we have so much expertise in the room. And then just know where I'm coming from is just from my heart. Like I see this need everywhere I go. I work with people who are sacrificing so much to take care of our youth and families. And so I really made this for them. I'm gonna share my screen here in just a second. It's gonna make me have to rearrange a couple of things on this end because I'm on a tiny laptop. Okay, now I can see you all. Let's do this, share screen, and then we will get started. Okay, so the very first ground rule, even before we get to the ground rules, is because I have very small screen real estate here, I can't see you raise your hand. So your invitation is to unmute yourself and just interrupt me, right? So even though this may feel more like a presentation or a workshop, it's a conversation. And so just speak what's on your heart or on your mind. The theme here is just about making sure that we have balance. So being real about the impacts of the pandemic and our capacity for care and compassion. Our goals are pretty simple. They're fourfold. Over the next hour or so, we're going to recognize the personal impacts of experiencing the pandemic. We'll assess our self-care strategies. We'll take a look at the factors that impact our self-awareness, balance, and connection to one another. And then we'll consider just a couple of strategies that we can use to support each other, to support our colleagues, and just to bring compassion back to where we're working. So there are some ground rules since this isn't our normal coalition business. Today's personal, right? So the lens of you. But I am asking you to bring your professional norms to ensure that everybody feels respected. I need a commitment that anything somebody shares with you today in a breakout room or in chat is confidential. We're going to be using the annotate feature in Zoom, so you'll be marking our screen. We're also going to use a service called menti.com so that we can engage in some anonymous responding. So for those of you who have dual screens or who have your browser in front of you, would you please go to www.menti.com right now, MENTI.com, and then we'll go back to that browser. So open that browser window so it's ready when we're ready, and then come back to this screen on Zoom. And then know that I have a habit of randomly calling on people if conversation stalls, and even if it doesn't stall. So just wanted to put that warning out there. What I wanted to open up with how you're feeling. Like the sun shines out. If you're in Monroe School District, kids are back. I'm wondering, what is your stress temperature? And so if 0 degrees is basically saying life is like being on a beach in Hawaii, I never want to leave, it's perfect, sunny. If 100 degrees is, I'm feeling so overwhelmed every day that I'm not even sure why I'm coming to work. I'm wondering where you are from 0 to 100. So in the chat box, what is your stress temperature? And you can respond anonymously in the chat box if you want. If you don't make any adjustments, it will show your name. But what's your stress temperature this week? What's your normal stress temperature? And you can define normal, like pre-COVID normal, regular COVID normal, just where are you at normally? And then I'm wondering too, if you're aware of where in your body you feel stress. And so I put a little format suggestion there at the bottom of your screen. So my stress temperature this week is a 70. It's normally about a 30. And when I'm stressed out, I really feel it in my stomach and shoulders. So that's my first warning sign that I'm not where I want to be. So I'm going to open up my chat box just to see everybody. Yep, 60, ooh, 25, 25, ooh, 81. In Menti, I will give you the code when we get to that screen. Thank you. I forgot to mention that, Norma. So if you just have it open, each screen's going to have a different code. 80 and normally an 80. Amber, I hear you. I definitely hear you. Okay, so we're seeing a range of stress temperatures this week. I can tell you that for me, oh, Eliana, you are cool as a cucumber. Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you guys for letting me do this check-in. When I did this last week with a group of teachers, stress temperatures were in the 80s on average, and some went much higher, some went much lower. But we're in this period of transition where some people have been able to work from home from the past year, and we know there's no such thing as small change. And so the transition back to in-person learning has been quite stressful for a lot of people who are doing good work right now. I also wanted to explain the bigger picture about why we might be feeling this range of stress temperatures, and it's not because we're weak, and it's not just because we're in transition. We've all been impacted by the pandemic. So I know some of you have seen this. I just wanted to share, this is Washington State Department of Health's behavioral health forecast. And so what Department of Health is showing is that our responses as a state, so our general community, is responding almost exactly in alignment with how communities respond when they face this significant natural disaster. And if you've been with us during any of our work on ACEs or other trauma-informed presentations, you know that natural disasters create an ongoing and pretty significant trauma response for a lot of people. But we've moved past that pre-disaster phase. That was last December and January until February, when we had the first confirmed case in the United States right here in Snohomish County. We moved through that impact phase, that intense emotional reaction, and into this heroic and honeymoon phase where we were pretty optimistic for a quick return to normal. I remember thinking we'd be back in school by May. This was temporary, and then we weren't, and it wasn't. And we moved into what disaster researchers label the disaster cascade, or the disillusionment phase. And so this is a period that's really hallmarked by pretty significant cognitive and emotional disruption, and ongoing mental and physical exhaustion, increased substance use, increased feelings of distrust and abandonment, and really increased use of our local resources. Right now, you see where we are about a year ago. So schools closed April 13th. Today is about April, what is today, April 15th. And so we are on the precipice of moving into reconstruction. So working through our grief, coming to terms where we are, feeling like the community and our homes are recovering, and moving into, we're ready for new responsibilities and new normal, whatever that is, or maybe even a return to old normal. Or we may be on track for a secondary disillusionment. And the most recent data from Department of Health came out yesterday. I saw the new graph yesterday, and it basically has two circles, one on reconstruction and one on secondary disillusionment. And depending on where you live in Washington, you may be experiencing either of these. So these costs, not only of serving, but of living through the pandemic, tend to manifest as an emotional residue that comes from working and living during these persistently stressful times, especially when we're serving people who've been extremely impacted. And so this is really what vicarious trauma feels like, if that's a new term to you. We would traditionally label this as burnout, except that with burnout, we're just done. We've been working too hard, we've been working too long. Work really is the primary factor. In vicarious trauma or secondary trauma exposure, we tend to take on the trauma characteristics of the people that we're serving. And so while we are experiencing a trauma in the form of the pandemic, we are also taking on the trauma characteristics of the people we're serving. And as folk who are on the front lines of serving people, if you're here, I want you to know you're not alone. But vicarious trauma tends to manifest across a couple of domains. Physically, we start losing sleep, we stop eating well, we come to work and just feel low energy every day. Emotionally, we start becoming anxious. We might experience depression, or we might become numb to what's happening around us, including the needs that are happening around us. Behaviorally, we might become absent-minded. We might start losing things. It's not just because we're getting older. Cognitively, this can manifest as diminished concentration, a loss of focus. We might become hypervigilant, where we're subconsciously scanning the environment for threat and overreacting to perceived threat all around us. You might be on your way home and wonder, why did I react to John that way today? Interpersonally, this can feel like mistrust. We start withdrawing from people who support us, or from our supportive peer groups and PLCs or other groups. And spiritually, this can manifest as workplace frustration, feeling like we're not being adequately supported at work, just feeling like we're not satisfied every day. I see that in this audience today, we do have a lot of experts. So if you have something to add, please add. I would love to lean on your expertise. But if what you're feeling is new to you, right? I want to cover what depression could feel like, so that you can put a vocabulary behind what you're feeling. But depression feels like a loss of joy. We might stop enjoying things that we once loved, and we might start feeling like nothing can make us happy. Concentration and focus definitely become harder if we're feeling depression. And the reason why we're focusing on depression and anxiety is because Department of Health behavioral forecast shows that about 60% of adults in Washington right now are likely experiencing symptoms of clinical depression. And so what does that actually mean? It's not just being sad all the time, right? So concentration and focus become harder, making any kind of decision, reading, even if we're readers regularly, or even watching television, binge watching Netflix can seem taxing with depression because it's hard to think clearly. It's hard to follow what's happening. And so these things that brought us joy in the past, we just can't sustain attention through or not for long periods of time. We might start feeling like this is never going to end. And if you're watching the news and seeing the 3 counties who reverted back to phase 2 and the new variants, you may feel like there's no way to ever feel good again, or like we're ever going to get out of this COVID period. Depression makes you dwell on the negative. We experience people who are experiencing depression, and I count myself as one of those people. We might feel like we're worthless or like we're a failure at everything. When I talk with my male friends, and I recognize this is me generalizing, my male friends tend to articulate a vocabulary of feeling worthless. My female friends tend to articulate a vocabulary of feeling like a failure. And so I don't know where you're at on that spectrum. That's just my very unscientific observation, but I thought it was worth putting out there. Depression can also result in poor quality of sleep. So whether we oversleep or we undersleep, those of us who are experiencing depression are just more likely to feel tired or unrefreshed. Depression also makes us feel low energy. Some of us feel like we can't get out of bed, or we feel exhausted all the time, even when we know we're getting enough sleep. We might feel too tired just to do simple daily tasks. We might experience weight change. Some people with depression feel like they don't want to eat anything. Others might use food as a comfort or a coping tool. So we exist on both sides of that spectrum. We're more likely to feel aches and pains, headaches, nausea, body aches, and other pains with depression, and even more likely to engage in behavioral outbursts, right? We might feel unexpected anger or aggression. We might engage in risk-taking behavior. One of the things that we're seeing statewide is that youth rates of depression and mental health distress are increasing over what they normally are. And substance use is increasing, especially among women. There are lots of theories as to why, but that's what our state researchers are observing right now. Beyond depression, if you're feeling anxiety, right, you're feeling this persistent worry or nervousness, or just like you're always on edge, that is anxiety. Anxiety leads to excessive worrying. It feels like we're on edge. It feels like we're being impacted daily and almost without relief. We don't know when these feelings are going to end. Just like depression, it can lead to somatic symptoms like muscle tension and headaches, or even just a feeling like we can't sit still. We need to always be on the move. It can lead to obsessive, intrusive, or racing thoughts. And I should say, I recognize I'm reading some of these to you, but I'm going to give you these slides at the end of the day and a couple of worksheets too. And so I'm just talking through this. I wrote this the way I would talk through it, so that if you find value here, you can use this or disseminate it as you wish. Or if you find no value, you have an invitation to help improve this, because I'm going to still keep talking about this where I see there's need. So help me out. That's the invitation. But anxiety leads to disruptive patterns of thought. These may disrupt your day. They might prevent you from sleeping at night. I know how I experience anxiety is my mind won't shut down. It races 1,000 miles an hour every night, and I just cannot fall asleep. Some of us might feel like we're in danger. We might feel unsafe, or like we need to avoid certain situations or people. Again, we might become hypervigilant and overreact or overperceive threat where none was intended. And then there are physiological symptoms. Again, upset stomach, sweating when you're not hot, trembling when you're not cold, racing heartbeat, feeling like you can't breathe. I think the bottom line here is, if you're feeling any of this, You're not alone. In fact, you're completely normal. Again, the number is 60% of Washingtonians are right where you're at if this is what you're feeling. It's the highest rate we've ever experienced as a community. Okay, so now what I'd love you to do is to go to Menti, and then let me rearrange my screen so I can see this code here. So if you go to Menti and where it asks for your code, the code for this screen is 96 60 43 5. It's right at the top of this screen. It says to go to Menti and use the code 96 60 43 5. And then this is completely anonymous. I can't even see your IP address, so I won't even know what community you're typing in from. But I'm wondering, in the safety of anonymity, if you would share how you've been impacted by the pandemic. And you can use full sentences and you can respond as many times as you want. But I just want to normalize where we all might be at. And I see a chat comment. Let me see what that is. Oh, sure. Okay. So this should automatically update. Let me know. In a few minutes, I'll ask if you've responded and we'll see if this is self-populating on the screen here. And then you should know, if you've never seen or used Menti before, this is a completely free tool. So if you're on Zoom frequently, this is a tool you can use to engage your audience anonymously. And then what you'll see here is, maybe it's not loading. Oops. Let me go to this alternative here. Yes, okay. Yes, so let me share my screen again because you're missing this cool part. So what's happening as you're entering is we are building a word cloud. So as you enter, so you can see deceived, insomnia, gained weight.
Joe, I can only put in one word. Am I silly? And last time I did this, I couldn't do it either.
I think you're just special, Amber.
Well, we know, but all right. I'll try to work on it.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah, anxiety spiked, loss of partnership, definitely. Yeah. And some positive impacts, more connected to family, more active. Yeah, for me, that's true. Shut down, rebellious, loneliness. Yeah, you guys, thank you for taking the risk to share, right? So, I mean, this is the point of this activity. Every single one of us are impacted. Some of us, I'm seeing this, and this is common, loss of your house. Oh, my friends, I'm so sorry. Yeah, missing family and friends. You are not alone. You're not alone. Loss of routine. I had to create all new routines just for COVID. I think some will stick with me for the rest of my life. I've not been affected. That's okay too. That's okay. I mean, we each have a different capacity for resilience. For some of us, we are unscathed. I am not one of them. I'll just be honest with you. But thank you guys. Okay, I'm going to move us back to the presentation, and I'll make sure I capture the word cloud here. Let me stop sharing, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I am going to, that's not what I want to do. You know, it's only been a year of Zoom, and I have as little mastery of it today as I had a year ago. So, since we're all being honest. Okay, so what I wanted to share with you, so thank you for sharing and norming where we're at. I believe that we can start thinking differently about what we're experiencing if we're equipped with better understanding. And if we can start thinking differently about something, we can start responding to it differently and maybe working through it. And so I want to show you 2 slides, because what I want to do is redefine one of the consequences of where we're at. So one of those consequences is traditionally labeled compassion fatigue. And this is a numbness to what's going on around us, or even a disdain or a rejection of other people's needs. And I want to suggest to you today that it really isn't our compassion that fatigues. In fact, compassion is indefatigable. It's our empathy that fatigues. And so, again, lots of expertise. So please, 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 your invitation is to interrupt me and even correct me so that we can make this better for everybody. But I wanted to explain empathy really simply as sensing, right? We sense. Empathy is our senses, and empathy can be separated into 2 components. There's affective empathy or emotional empathy, and that's our capacity to sense another person's emotional state and experience concern from them because of what we're sensing. But affective empathy causes personal distress, right? We are distressed when we share in other people's experiences. The other side of empathy is cognitive empathy, and that's our ability to understand, adopt, and identify with a person's perspective and feelings. But here's what I want to help you understand, because empathy means we take on the suffering of others. It depletes our dopamine levels through activation of our pain networks. And research have clearly identified that dopamine plays a major role in how we feel pleasure, how we think and plan, and how we focus and engage. So the consequence of our empathy is that it diminishes our pleasure, it diminishes our ability to think, and it diminishes our ability to focus and engage. And so how we get past those experience or that distress is by acting, and compassion really is acting. So compassion isn't a feeling. I think it's more appropriately thought of as a skill that helps us to process through those 2 dimensions of empathy, affective or emotional empathy, and then cognitive empathy, in order for us to take action. And then here's what's cool, right? Compassion generates positive emotion, because taking compassionate action releases dopamine, oxytocin, and vasopressin. And these are the neuropeptides that are responsible for safety, bonding, and attachment. So the more compassionate we are, the more our brain literally generates hormones or neuropeptides that counteract the negative effects of empathy, right? So we experience the suffering of others, we take on their distress, and if we can't move past that sensing component of empathy, then we get stuck and we suffer. But if we can push through that, try to identify a positive action to take in response to what we're sensing, our brain takes care of us. And so compassion doesn't fatigue, it's empathy that fatigues. And we're going to circle back to this. But I just wanted to put that out there for you. And again, the invitation is to interrupt or interject, expand our own knowledge here. So that's out there too. But so now we're going to use the annotate feature of Zoom. So on your menu bar, you should see a little pencil that says annotate. And then if you click on the annotate button on your menu bar, you'll see lots of options. Draw stamp. So if you select stamp, you're going to see little icons like hearts or stars or question marks. What I'd like you to do is put a little stamp in the box that best describes you. So of the 20 people on with us right now, where are you at? What is your capacity for empathy? Are you protecting yourself from the emotions and baggage of others? Are you able to understand and take the perspective of others and you're not worn out by it? Are you able to understand and move past understanding to act on that? So, and I think, yeah, I'm torn between the second. I would probably be, look at this, I'm going to cheat. I'm probably right in the middle of these 2. Depends on the day and literally the weather. And again, there's absolutely no judgment for where you're at. This is just an assessment. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, can't find the heart, Norma. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's under the button and annotate that says stamp. I wish I was there. This is the hard part of not being in person. Okay, so let's.
I think I did like 10 of the hearts on accident. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. So did some others. It's okay. Oops. And now I'm stamping it even though I want to move on. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. Clear all drawings. And then we'll move on to the next page here. So again, you know this, but sometimes we need to be reminded. You're a whole person. Wherever you're at is totally okay. Whatever you're feeling is completely valid. Whoever you encounter, I mean, look at the evidence today. Whoever you encounter is probably going through this too, at least 60% of us. And we can get through this together. What you're seeing on the right-hand side is actually a model of the whole person developed by SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. This is the socio-ecological model of development, and it basically says that we are a product of our society, both culture, historical trauma, norms, laws and policies, our community and neighborhoods, our schools, our faith-based institutions, our relationships with peers and friends and teachers and others, and then our own innate capacity for resilience, whether that's high or low. And so again, my point to you today is you're okay. This is normal. This is normal. You're not different. And then even though we could do a whole workshop just focused on self-care or a whole week, we're just going to keep it simple today. We're going to talk about the 3 aspects of self-care. It's as easy as ABC. Awareness, which means slowing down and focusing inwardly. Balance, so seeking balance in all areas of our lives. And connection, building connection and supportive relationships, even in times like this. So awareness matters. We did this earlier, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about it for about 5 minutes. Let me see my time here. Oh yeah, we're doing fine. I'm wondering if you would share your stress temperature in person, if you feel comfortable doing that, what types of heads are going through your thoughts right now. You may be in a breakout room with strangers, and so there may be safety in that, or there may be risk. It's up to you how much you want to share, but I'm going to move you to breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. Share your thoughts on where we are, how you're feeling, what your stress temperature is. If you can, are your behaviors and actions right now consistent with who you want to be? And so I'm going to put us in random breakout rooms. Let's see here. I have 3 to 4 participants, and I'll see you back in a few minutes. But go ahead and just talk about where you are at. You may have to click on the breakout room feature and accept. Dang it. Then let's see where we are. Okay, it looks like we are all back. All right, so what I'm gonna do here, oops, I just lost my menu bar. Weird. Okay, let me stop sharing and see if I can get my menu bar back. Okay. It is what it is. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. So in the chat box, if you will go to the chat box right now, I'm gonna upload a file. Give me 1 second here. This is a very simple self-care assessment checklist. Let me know by thumbs up if you can see it. All you should have to do is click on the self-care assessment, just click to open. And what I'm gonna do is give you 5 more minutes to do this self-care assessment. So just look at it on screen. You can make notes if you want. It's totally up to you. But then we're gonna come back and talk about it. So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes of independent time to assess where you're at personally.
I don't
If
have
you-
that, so I'm not able to find that.
Have you opened the chat box, Tom?
I had it earlier.
This black car that keeps turning around like this in our grass.
Still can't find it. Is anybody else having a hard time finding it?
Yeah, mine says to save as is.
Okay, go ahead and save it, and then it will open it.
Yeah, I think if you save it and then it'll automatically download and then you have to open it.
Thank you, guys. Again, just as unskilled today as I was last March.
Mine says that I don't have permission to save in this location. Huh.
Well, okay, then let me show it on screen. I'm going to show it to you on screen. We'll do this like this. We're adaptable, right? It's a pandemic, but we're still in charge here. Let me, let's adapt. I just wish I wasn't being so slow at adapting.
That's all right. It helps us not be so stressed out.
Okay, good. Okay.
Look what I did. I adapted by printing mine. Ha ha.
Woohoo! Okay, so I'm just gonna go through this, and I hope you can see my screen. So what you see is the self-care assessment. Self-care activities are the things you do to maintain good health and improve well-being. You'll find that many of these activities are things you already do as part of your normal routine. In this assessment, you'll think about how frequently or how well you are performing different self-care activities. The goal of this assessment is to help you learn about your self-care needs by spotting patterns and recognizing areas of your life that need more attention. There are no right or wrong answers on this assessment. There may be activities that you have no interest in, and other activities may not be included. It's not a comprehensive list. It's just a starting point for thinking about your self-care needs. And then what I'd like you to do is to consider from 1 to 3 how well you do something. I do it poorly as 1. I do this okay as 2. I do this well or do it often is 3. And then what I'd like you really to pay attention to is your stars. I would like to improve at this, or I would like to do this more frequently. So our first domain here is physical self-care. Again, 3 is the best. Star is you want to work on this right now. And we'll start moving forward in just a second. Okay, our next domain is psychological and emotional self-care. Okay, we'll move to the next domain, which is social self-care. And we'll move to the next domain, which is spiritual self-care. And then we'll go ahead and move on to professional self-care. And we'll move on to, that might have been our last domain. Let's double check. Okay, and that was our last domain. And I'll make sure you guys have this as well. I want to share my screen back to our slide deck here. And so that was a very simple self-care assessment. So what I notice when I work through assessments like these in other groups is this really acute feeling of loss. So a lot of us are aware of what brings us joy, and we might have a marginal awareness that we haven't been doing things that bring us joy. But after we do the assessment, like people really start to feel lost. And so what I'm going to do is put you in your breakout room again with the same people you were with last time, since you're building a relationship. And in your breakout room, I just want you to talk about what you noticed while you were completing the assessment. How do you feel now that it's complete? What are areas you're doing well in? What are areas where you just realize all of a sudden, I need to work better at this, or I want to work harder at this right now? So please share with how you feel comfortable, but otherwise, go ahead and share within your group. What's your reaction? Okay, and I'm going to open all the rooms.
Hi.
Hello.
We got cut off at the end because we were talking about boosters. Booster shots.
Boosters. Oh, hey, that's good self-care.
I ended up in a
Right.
different group the second time, which was just fine.
It was a different room.
Oh. Yeah, I think I've been very honest about my Zoom skills. So this is why I'm honest. I'll just embrace my incompetence on this format, but we're still together and we're still moving forward.
There you
So
go.
I don't know, thumbs up or thumbs down on screen. How's this going so far for you? Are you're still here? So okay, we'll keep going then. So let me share my screen here. So that was wanted to look at awareness. You know, again, it's like, I don't know how it felt for you, but when I go through that, I realize really some areas I need to take action on. And so this is about balance. This brings us to our B, right? So if the first aspect of engaging in good, productive self-care is being aware of what we're feeling, where we're at, what we're missing, what we want to do next, then the second component definitely is seeking balance. We're happier and more productive when we've had opportunities to rest and relax. Our cell phones don't work without batteries, and neither do we. And just becoming aware, like through those strategies, that self-care assessment, taking our daily stress temperature, becoming aware of when we're losing balance gives us an opportunity for change. And then I think we're going to go over this just really quickly. I won't do as much, but so for a lot of us, especially if you're in a helping profession, we're able to talk about boundaries very well. We're able to talk about triggers very well, but we're not always the kings and queens of being able to say no. So this will be just a reminder instead of an engagement, because I'm looking at the time and there's a component I want to get to, but establishing boundaries that are strong enough to protect us, but flexible enough to allow for a healthy connection really is the key to maintaining balance. Making sure that your needs are being met and protecting your energy have to be just have to be in your mindset. All of us experience triggers. Anybody want to be brave and just share what you think a trigger is? I'm not going to correct you. I'm just going to accept whatever you say, even if it involves gummy bears or something.
Oh, I'm going to share whenever people talk about COVID and loss. I'm trying to get a little more less emotional about the loss that our families experienced. And so, I mean, it's, yeah, we lost my father-in-law because of existing conditions that were exacerbated by COVID, I want to say. And it was sudden and we weren't expecting it. And so hearing clients' stories of similar experiences is, I kind of have to put the phone on mute and take a deep breath and focus, and be present for them and not get wrapped up in my own, because I feel like we're still grieving a little bit, in our family. Actually, a lot of it, but yeah,
Absolutely.
anytime people talk about the COVID stuff, I don't want to hear the news. I don't want to hear the numbers, because it's just like too much right now. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you're triggered, one of your responses is avoidance, right? That's very protective, right? You just tune out, turn it away, try to avoid those situations. And I think as you're describing that, I saw a lot of heads nodding. We're some of us have experienced similar losses and we feel similarly about when we're approached. I think all of us, for one reason or another, are grieving lost connections, grieving past relatives or family members. I think the key is we just don't need to judge where we're at. We just want to recognize where we're at so that we can act appropriately on them. Normally, just because we're running out of time, we won't do this, but some of the most common emotional triggers are in this list here. I'm wondering if if you would annotate, so again, in the menu, the annotate feature, I'm going to change this up here. If you would just put a star or a heart or a check or whatever you want by 2 of your most common triggers. And so a trigger is when we react because we feel like we're not getting or won't get one of our needs met. Which of these are most important to you right now? And losing, when you lose one of these or one of these states are threatened, what triggers you? Yeah, thank you guys. Safety, yeah, for sure. Mhm. Okay, thank you guys. Actually, what I'm gonna do is send us back to breakout rooms again for about 4 minutes. And I just want you to share with each other how you know, what's your own body sign, or how do others know? How do you communicate when you've been triggered? Like, who are you? What do people need to know? So let's do this really quickly here. And then I'll pull you back so we can finish this out together. Okay, welcome back. Just a quick note on anger. So if you've been feeling angry lately, or you've been working with people who normally don't feel angry but are projecting anger, just wanted to remind you that people almost always feel something else before they get angry. You might feel afraid, attacked, offended, disrespected, forced, trapped, pressured, anything. If any of those feelings are intense enough, they often manifest as anger. So anger is typically secondary to what we're actually feeling. And so some of your colleagues, your partners, your family members may need your help to co-regulate their emotions during these challenging times. What that really means is we just want to try to focus past their behavior. We want to role model the emotion and expression that we want them to take on. We're going to help them to regulate their behavior, because their mirror neurons are going to fire and be able to match our mood once we help them get past the moment. Otherwise, whoops. There we go. Just wanted to remind you that compassion isn't necessarily a feeling, even though it does generate positive feelings, like we started at the beginning. Compassion is moving past empathy into action, and that again releases dopamine, oxytocin, and vasopressin, which completely counteracts the distress that accompanies empathy, that, you know, the distress we feel when we take on the suffering of others. And like I said, I'll make sure we get these slides on the website and out to you guys. But if in your self-care activity discussion, you realize that your preferred self-care activities have just been out of reach for too long, I would suggest that it's not actually self-care right now. And so you can keep wanting to engage in those, but if it's impossible, or if it's too much work, or you just can't see yourself getting back to it, there are a variety of things that you can do. 2 minutes, you can breathe, stretch, daydream. 5 minutes, listen to music, sing out loud, call me up. We'll have a cleansing cry together. And wherever you are, there are self-care strategies that you can engage in. I think the last thing I wanted to do with you today is just remind you about the power of connection. Research is really clear that one of the most powerful stress reducers and protective factors is positive social connection with peers and loved ones. And so I'm just wondering, in your breakout rooms, have you had opportunity to talk about how you're going to build connection or reinforce your supportive relationships with coworkers and family members and others? And I wanted to remind you that within your connection, it's okay to talk about your anxiety or whatever you're feeling, because that will free up the people you're connected to share where they're at too. Give yourself grace, be patient with yourself, with your coworkers, if you serve students, with your students and your colleagues. The right routines for you are the ones that work for you right now. And let others take care of you. So it's a gift to allow others to care for you. When I help other people, I feel happier, right? It's that compassion in action. Those neuropeptides are released. I feel better, safer, and more bonded. So finding a balance between showing expressions of care from you to your colleagues and allowing your colleagues to show how they care about you doesn't mean you're weak. Allowing others to care doesn't mean you stop being able to care for yourself or others. It's just a sign of our interdependence and what it means to be human. Letting others take care of you is also an act of compassion. And know that we all need community. Receiving care from others is an important part of any self-care plan, helps us to build and belong to communities of care. The pandemic certainly is a virus, but this is a pandemic of social isolation. Just because of the time, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, but what you're going to see in the slides and an additional handout is I wanted to engage you in your strengths. We've been talking about compassion and acting compassionately, but it's hard to know exactly how to do that. But it becomes easier when we take inventory of our strengths. So what I'm wondering too is, when I send you this, what are your strengths? If you had to put check marks by any of these or add to it, where are your strengths? And once you know your strengths, how can you use your strength? If kindness is your, ooh, thank you. Yeah, let's do this. If kindness is your strength, how do you turn that strength into compassionate action? Right? And yes, that will help others, but it's going to help you too. Yeah, it's appreciation. Thank you. See, so appreciation is one of my strengths. And when I am most stressed out, I try to intentionally turn that into compassion. I start sending emails, more emails and phone calls, but I start communicating with people about how I appreciate them. And it just gets me through. So, okay, you know what? We are going to finish up with this activity in 1 second. So thinking about the strength that you're marking right now, our next slide is on Menti. And so I want you to go to Menti really quick. This is how we're going to close the meeting. And within Menti, type in one strength-based act of compassion you're going to engage in next week. What are you going to do to leverage your specific strength? Right? Because strengths give us energy. What are we going to do to leverage our strength? Give me a second. I'm going to put the real Menti screen up so we don't have the lag. Let me go back here. Almost there. Strengths-based compassion. Here we go. And now I will save or share. Okay, so in Menti, the code is right at the top of your screen, 7129-2812. 7129-2812 is the new code. And thinking about your strength, what's one thing you can do, one compassionate act you can do? Yes, I will definitely get all of these out as handouts. The self-care assessment and even this little activity is a handout. And at the bottom of the handout, you'll see the website where I got them from. So there's a whole bunch of cool tools you can use. And look at this. Create a plan. A plan is compassionate. Give grace. So the key here is to get the oxytocin, dopamine, and vasopressin release from the brain. You just have to be intentional about it. So don't just be brave, but be intentional about engaging in an act of bravery. And you're going to benefit, and whoever you're being brave for is going to benefit. And while you're putting your plan for compassion here, I do just want to say thank you for hanging out with us today. It's sunny outside. You could have been anywhere. We lost some folks along the way because of other meetings. Maybe this was triggering. I can acknowledge that. But I want to thank you guys. I'm going to stop sharing and just open this up for any final comments. And I'm going to leave the meeting open in case anybody wants to connect. But otherwise, have a great sunny Thursday.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. You're just such a gift to the community and the school district and to all of us. So thank you for the work you put into this and the help you've been to so many people.
Well, I couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, Joe, thank you very much. I apologize for being so disruptive and coming in halfway or
No.
about halfway through, but if there's another one, I don't know. I'm not brilliant on the computer, but if you do another one of these, I'd love to start from the beginning. If you know that you have another one coming up, I'd love to know about it.
Sure. And the thing about the coalition is I'll come to you. Like if you have a group of people who might benefit from something like this, everything we offer here, we offer to the community.
Okay,
So
I
let's
work
set it
for the
up.
volunteer Volunteers of America. I'm just wondering if they've got a specific time that they're set out for you to do this. I think a lot of it, I do believe, and I don't want to take up a ton of time, but I do believe that we've had some self-care training. You personally have done for me, you've done an amazing job, and I wanted to be engaged instead of another one long drawn out training. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
I'm not trying to be rude to the person before you or after you, but you were very engaging for me. So very
Well,
much
I'll
so.
take that.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I have a question. I have
Yes.
some flyers from CIMAR that we're trying to kind of distribute in the community. Is any way we can have the emails from this group so we can send those flyers, or?
If you send them to me, I'll send them out to the whole distribution list.
Okay, great. All right, so I will send it out to you then.
Yep, I got your back, Eliana.
Oh, great.
Whatever you
Thank
need.
you so much.
And then just in case, so if it's an event or an offering that can benefit the whole community, I'll also talk to the school district about sending it out to all households.
Okay, yeah. We're gonna come out with a different flyer also for the youth, because we're trying to get the program started again, because in the past year, because of the pandemic, we didn't really have a youth program, but we're trying to get that coming back and see how we're gonna engage some of the students in our program. So yeah, but we just wanted to kind of remind people we're here. In the past months, we see an increase of requests for services, especially for mental health. So
yes,
I just wanted to give the word to people so they know we're here.
Yes, we really appreciate you, Eliana. Thank you so much.
No, we really appreciate you, Joe. Thank you.
Well, you have a good day. Norma, anything on your mind?
No, not really.
Okay.
Thank you, though. I enjoyed the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you. Come on back.
Okay.
Although next month will be more business focused. We'll
That's
still
okay.
have some learning components.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys. How do you think this went? Tom?
Well, I think, well, I never made it into Menta, so I was a little lost, but I think it went
Oh,
well.
so sorry.
No, it's not. No. It was the most stressful part of my day, which means that
I'm so sorry.
Which means I'm not very stressed. So, but we need to do